Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Ian here in Beijing. It's early in the morning and I'm heading off to have a coffee and meet someone, have a bit of breakfast. But one thing that struck me there when I was listening to a podcast was something that was popping up about American values and the American values being spread across the world. And it was on a podcast that I listened to get some sort of balance, and it kind of made me think a little bit differently, because my ears tuned to that stuff now, because I've left the Western sort of hemisphere and came to Asia and explored other areas, and that opens up your thinking, opens up your mind. Anyway, I'm going to cross the road here, be back in a second to elaborate on this. Stick with me. It's good coffee. So when you leave your country and you live somewhere else, you definitely change. You change your perspective. Your view of the world changes. A world of history, of modern history, that was concealed from you from your days in education all the way through up to your engagement with the legacy and present day news and information media. That history that was always there was strategically hidden. That opens up to you and smacks you right in the face. To put it into a way that my generation might understand, there was a realisation that just maybe recently, when I looked at the Star Wars movie just recently, I think I realised that I wasn't Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. I wasn't part of that team in that movie Star Wars, which I watched as a kid and I got excited about. Recently, I'm not in that gang, I realise. Actually, my learning is that more from the recent history and understanding of what's happened in the past, I've had a quiet dawning that maybe, just maybe, the Northern Hemisphere, the Western world where I lived, was in fact Darth Vader and his crew of stormtroopers. That gang, that's the gang that I think I realise now that maybe that's the gang that I was part of. I was the gang that was building the Death Star. I was not Han Solo. And one of the things I experience here in China is the drop in the pace of life. Now don't get me wrong, things move fast here in China and you can hear some rap music here playing in the background. But I know they move fast, yeah. How else can you build what you build in 40 years without that speed? Life here definitely moves fast, but it has that illusion of peacefulness as the kids run by here. But it's got peacefulness, it's got that family culture, screaming kid, but yes, there's peacefulness here. Life feels less hectic in China because much of the anger and the anxiety and the hate is reduced because it doesn't scream out of the media outlets. The Western world media content moves fast. A news cycle of stories can last an hour, where in the past it would be, 2 days or so. Yeah, it's peaceful. The onslaught of anger from different sides in the media in the West, and the lack of fact checking and so on, just gives me the idea that maybe America and some of the cities and countries in the West are tearing itself apart. I'm not sure if that's true. I've known people in America, and I think America's a great place, great people, and I think on the whole most people in America want the same, which is peace, love, happiness, the ability to live a decent life and just get on with life. But I definitely think there is something there inside that political culture in America that is changing things, and the media culture in America and in the West is really pulling people apart. In China, the information world moves slowly. Now, there is a vibrant and noisy social media here, and that can get behind a social cause, and it can go, absolutely viral here. News channels, newspapers, and other various medium report the news, and of course there is a patriotic bent to it, but it's just not as decisive as Western news, and it informs more, it entertains and it educates, but it doesn't spread that fear, hate and division in the same way as what I feel when I watch the Western media, which just screams at you sometimes. And that's what I noticed when I went back in the summer there to the UK. It was just, the media was just screaming at you. There are people all over the internet that leave Europe, America, UK, and have travelled to experience life in a different environment. They're living life in another country and exploring what that means to their existence as a healthy, balanced human being. You can see from what they report, what they've grown from that experience, and they've developed in a very different way. And they share on the internet, YouTube and social media and so on. They, like me, try hard to share to help others to see some alternative ways of living in communities that support each other. But sharing is not easy. I read this in a blog the other day, and it feels fitting, if I'm absolutely honest. They wrote in the blog that it was easy, so easy to make up and send out bullshit, excuse my swearing, so easy to make up and spread bullshit versus the amount of energy that it takes to counteract that bullshit. So the inevitable is that the information world will be made up of 90% bullshit. Excuse my swearing, but it kind of makes sense to me. So getting back to that podcast that I was listening to, it's a conservative style podcast, and I do tend to listen to a lot of different information. I try and stay informed and take my information from many sources, but even when I think I'm listening to something a little bit more balanced, I have to stay alert. So listen to this short excerpt from the podcast that I was listening to, and if you don't listen carefully, don't listen with this different perspective, then you miss this type of thing. So listen to this.
One of the most important things that I think will be part of the discourse next year is that both Russia and China are stumbling now, right? I mean, two of our greatest adversaries who have challenged the American-led global order are now stumbling in different ways. It's an amazing opportunity for us to reassert American values, not just here at home, but all around the world.
So they go from discussing the dynamic between the Democrats, the Republicans, Trump, Biden, to move seamlessly into that statement that really should smack you in the face if you're at all concerned about the safety of the world. And they said, almost quoting, that we should get on with spreading American values around the world. And that for me is kind of arrogant now. I mean, pretty arrogant. It's a kind of really, for me, an abhorrent attitude that disregards anyone else's way of life. It is an attitude. Again, for me, it seems to be at the core of much of the suffering that I'm learning so much about now that I've shifted my perspective and travelled more and experienced more, and I can see an alternative. You know, I love the American people. They do seem extreme around some of the fringes, but the majority of the people, like I said, just want the same thing. They want peace, love, happiness, and the ability to get on and make a decent life for themselves, their family, in a safe and stable community with a roof over their heads. And I don't mean a car roof or a tent roof. They just want something safe and secure. American foreign policy, on the other hand, is kind of different. I would describe that as, these days, as being extreme. And I describe it like this when I'm trying to help some of the younger generation, my son and my daughter, understand. American foreign policy is like the guy who turns up at the house party with 2 bottles of tequila that he's just stolen from the store and wants to force everyone to party. You know, these guys, they beat up on people who don't want to party, or they beat up on the people who, you know, they deem a bit inferior to them. And they're also arrogant in a way that they push everyone off their seats as they noisily lounge across the seating area at the party. They refuse to listen to people who don't want to party because it's against their belief, maybe their religion, and they insist that they party. You know, these dudes, these guys, they shout abuse at others across the other side of the house in that party because they're offering a competing type of alcoholic beverage. Or they get pissed off, you know, these noisy people with the 2 bottles of tequila, they get pissed off because someone is like, I will share a wee glass with you now, but I'm working tomorrow, so just one is enough. You know, I've got to go on and build stuff, you know, like infrastructure, space stations, you know, high-speed rail, you know, that kind of stuff. The more and more noise that this tequila carrying party guy makes, the more people cringe and shy away from the party. That's America for me, the American foreign policy. And if we're not careful, if we don't all band together and push back and restrain the guy at the party with the 2 bottles of tequila, then we're going to end up in a massive Barney. And in that Barney, that ensuing fight, we could end up absolutely destroying the house that the party is in. And I don't mean a broken coffee table or a smashed plant pot or a bowl of spaghetti thrown against the wall. I mean the end of the house party that goes out with a big bang. You know, some guy in the kitchen has just had enough and he sparks up a doobie 5 minutes after he's turned on the gas hob without sparking the ignition. You know, you know the kind of explosion I mean. That's where we're going to end up if we don't push back against America, who for me is a drunk guy with the 2 bottles of stolen tequila, forcing everybody into their party instead of actually being responsible citizens. So anyway, this is me, Ian, here in Beijing, asking everybody to take care of themselves, their family, their community, look after each other, definitely your mother, your father, and as always, peace out. Catch you in the next video.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright.